Hello, Facebook and Instagram and maybe even LinkedIn and YouTube. How are you today? Oh, this is a wonderful, wonderful topic. What is the behind the scenes reason of lacking drive, lacking focus, and lacking confidence? Now, if you followed me for a while, you know that I am pretty big on this thing that I call core confidence. It was not coined by me, but where I come in and really take a very unique approach to core confidence is really going specifically into the pelvic floor and into the power and empowerment of our pelvis. Hey, Jennifer, in order to activate our core confidence. Core confidence, interestingly, is kind of a combination of self-efficacy and hope and authenticity and empowerment and going within ourselves to access feeling like we know the answer, accessing inner wisdom, feeling grounded, secure, and confident in what it is that we are doing. And usually, instead of that, a lot of us are spending time externally. So we're looking for the accolades. We're looking for somebody to give us the pat on the back and saying, you're doing a good job, keep on going. So without going too far into the core confidence piece, what I really want to talk about today is if you've been lacking drive, if you've been lacking focus, if you've been lacking confidence, I want you to understand a little bit of the behind the scenes as to this vicious cycle that's going on, okay? For this year in particular, so I'm recording this in 2020, if you have not had major stressors in your life, then please get in touch with me because you are probably in the minority, okay? But even if it's not this particular year, chances are life is moving very fast. We are living at a very urgent pace. We have lots of things that we are taking care of. Chances are that you may be finding yourself at various points in your life in a high stress, we want to call it a chronic stress time. Okay, so chronic stress means that there's just things coming at you kind of again and again and again. I, for one, have definitely found myself over time in chronic stress states. And when you are in these chronic stress states, what happens is that you have this hormonal response, and it really is connected into what's called the HPA axis, the hypopituitary thalamic axis, and that hooks in with your adrenals, it's on top of the kidneys, and it hooks in with cortisol. So cortisol usually gets kicked off when you have something that's really worrying you, it's on your mind, a problem that you can't solve, family relational issues. It could be emotional stress, it could be physical stress. There could be environmental stress, so the products that you're using, or if you're around like a lot of like paint, for example. We just renovated our new home, so paint is an example of that. And then there's also digestive stress, okay? So that kind of also falls into that environmental a little bit, what we're putting into the body. When you have this chronic cortisol release, it tends to dampen and really burn out, so to speak, I'll use that word, other key hormones that are keeping everything in balance. And if I've learned one thing in my own life and also in working with all sorts of ages of women for a long time now, it is that as we are getting into our mid and late 30s, into 40s, into 50s and beyond, you'll hear a lot, I just can't eat or drink or get away with the things that I used to be able to get away with. And I think instead what we really mean for all of us is it's this kind of cortisol, high stress states that we just cannot keep maintaining because the hormones now, because the other ones have become dampened, are just not functioning well in the body. It's kind of ripe. It is a ripe time for us to be able to make changes. I call it, when I'm wearing my spiritual hat, I call it the veil is very thin. Around that like late mid 30s into the 40s and 50s, this is the key time. This is the key time for us to be able, as women especially, but also for men, right? We hear like the midlife crisis. It's not a midlife crisis. What is happening is that all of this kind of hormonal soup, if we will, is getting to a point where it's asking us to make some small shifts. Now, usually we go into a state of like our body is failing us and this is not going to work. No. Your body is communicating with you and sharing with you, giving you vital information. Sometimes we don't understand the information, but it's giving us vital information in order to make decisions that can help us feel better, that can help us have more drive. Drive, focus, and confidence specifically goes into low testosterone. And when we are in adrenal fatigue several years ago became like super popular. Everybody was like, oh, I'm in adrenal fatigue. Well, not everybody is. Really, truly, you'd want to work with a functional physician or a very specific functional nutritionist to be able to run like urine and sweat tests and blood tests to be able to check for these things. I do have a few references if you want them. Of some people who can look at your specific hormone levels. But in general, it really comes back to this term that sometimes makes me a little prickly called self-care. But when I say self-care, what I mean is like this deep self-love, listening to the messages of your body and beginning to create a plan that doesn't feel like it's disrupting everything in your life, but a plan to come back to a state of center where you can come back into some drive and some focus and some confidence, okay? It also comes back to getting into your body, getting into your pelvis. So going from up here of overthinking and stress, getting into our pelvis. You can come to a retreat, come to a workshop, and we'll talk all about that, okay? So if you've been experiencing this, another one of the really, really key things, stress has been a big issue this year. Another one that we've heard a lot in news and media is sleep. And they all really play in together, okay? Because if you're experiencing kind of this high-low cortisol shift, which really happens as we're going throughout the day, the other thing is we actually like to spike all these ourselves. So we're supposed to have high cortisol in the morning in order to wake us up. Usually people will feel like they're waking up. They'll report, and I did some data gathering, and a lot of women that I was gathering data from were sharing, I wake up and I might have slept 8 or 9 hours and I still feel exhausted. Well, they're waking up with low cortisol when they want to be waking up with high cortisol. It's what we're supposed to be waking up with, but they wake up with low. And then we do coffee, so we jack it up, right? We get it back where we need it to. And then at the end of the day, when the cortisol is supposed to be low, we're all jacked up. It's like fired up and tired all at the same time. Cortisol is high at the wrong time. And so then we'll use alcohol to slow it all down to try to chill ourselves out so we can go to sleep, okay? But what happens then is it can mess with the sleep cycles. And you can find yourself either maybe you go to sleep just fine, no issue, but you may wake up in the wee early hours. That usually is because of a blood sugar level shift at that time, okay? And it's because of the cortisol and the hormones. So what'll happen is stress, and this chronic stress will kind of vicious cycle into sleep disturbances of many kinds. Trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, feeling exhausted when you wake up, okay? So you'll get this vicious cycle of sleep issues. And then also sleep is when everything is supposed to be kind of coming back into alignment. And if we're not feeling like we're getting good sleep, then the hormones kind of are shifting out of place again. So there's lots of different reasons for this. It can get a little complicated, but the basis that I want you to understand is that you having healthy sleep and managing your stress are two of the most important ways to self-manage your hormones. If you're experiencing some of these things, maybe you've even gone to the doctor like I did this week. I went to the doctor this week because I was like, I'm having some symptoms that I want to go ahead and have checked out. And they were basically like, yeah, I don't really know what to do for you. It's probably just stress. Well, we can work with that. I am working with that for myself. Once you get checked out, you know that something is not too serious. There are wonderful, teeny tiny little shifts that can be made in order to, and really they come, I always like to talk about it like from a path of least resistance level. There are mental shifts that sometimes need to be made. There's physical shifts that sometimes need to be addressed. And then there's spiritual shifts that sometimes need to be addressed. And we want to address those, and it's possible. Next Friday, I hope I'm telling you the right time, November the 6th, I am going to be doing at 12 o'clock a healthy sleep masterclass. I would love for you to join me. I would love for you to share this, if you will, with others, because when I was gathering the data from a lot of women, probably about, no less than like 60 women that I've gathered data from, they've been generous enough to share. The majority, like vast majority, are experiencing these symptoms of sleep disturbances and of chronic stress and hormonal imbalance. And so I want to come together in a very intimate setting and really help myself and help you and help all of us be able to continue the path forward of healthy sleep. It doesn't have to be perfect. Stress levels don't have to be perfect. Let's all be honest that there's a lot of stuff that's hard going on right now. So this is not about perfection. This is about making beautiful, radical acts of self-love so that we can come back into a little bit more of a homeostasis. Our body does not want perfection. What our body asks for is to communicate information to us and for us to be able to assimilate it and to make an action plan. So that is what we're going to be doing. You can gather more on Facebook and or on Instagram. On Instagram, you'll see a link in the bio where you can sign up. On Facebook, you will also see a link in several of my posts. And also, I think there's like an event page on LinkedIn. There's also an event page, but you do have to sign up. It's $25 and there is a recording at the end. Thank you so much. Leave your comments. If you don't feel comfortable, you're leaving your comments here. Get in touch with me personally. I would love to hear your story. And if you don't want to do the sleep masterclass, the other thing that I've just started is if you go to drsarahsmith.com, any newcomers that have not done sessions with me before, I have a brand new offer where for $97, so that's like a massive discount. Usually it's $200 for a private session. For $97, you get an hour with me and we can just hash out all of this stuff and really get into the crux of it together. So I would love to offer that to you as well. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. I'm about to go see my acupuncturist to help continue balancing my own hormones. Hope y'all are doing well.